What's up, Duval? It's your favorite Jag, Bucky Brooks, and this is Bleav in Jaguars, a podcast dedicated to all things Jacksonville Jaguars. We're excited. It's game week. It's week 2 of the NFL regular season, and the Jaguars are looking to bounce back against a competitive opponent, the Cleveland Browns. We're going to break it all down. We're going to talk about what the Jaguars need to do to walk away with a dub in the home opener. Before we do that, let's talk about our sponsor. Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. Bet Online has every stat, every matchup, even live odds and spreads to bet on during games. Think you know your stuff? Get in on our $200,000 mega contest and pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of the $200,000. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino, get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today, get in on the action, bet online. The game starts here. All right, guys, so we are now fully into the second part of the week. We're a couple of days away from week 2 kicking off. Hopefully, we have shaken off the doldrums from the first loss. There was a lot of, I would say, angst and consternation after Jaguars lost. I would say a winnable game to the Miami Dolphins in the season opener. To then watch the Dolphins get mollywopped by the Buffalo Bills probably has everybody around Duval feeling some kind of way. Well, we want to turn the page. We want to focus on the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns are coming to the bank. We have a chance to even our record at 1-1, but this is a team that is dangerous, and they're dangerous because when you look at their roster from top to bottom, man, they have a lot of talent. It's a very talented roster. There's some big-time players that you have to account for, but this is a game that the Jaguars absolutely can get back on track. And a lot of times when you're thinking about getting ready for these games, it typically becomes about the opponent and what they have and what you have to take away in those things. But I think I'm going to kind of stay on point with the coaching staff and say, hey, man, it's really about us. It's about how we respond, how we react to a disappointing loss, and how we use the lessons from that loss to kind of bring about a better performance in week 2. Before we get to what we need to do, I think it's really important to talk about some of the people that may not be available for the team when it comes to playing. Tyson Campbell has been ruled out. He may be gone for a minute with the hamstring injury. So that says that the young guys are going to be up and ready to play. Outside of that, man, it looks like a pretty clean contest in terms of who's going to be available. All the other starters should be around. And so you may feel good about, hey, look, we're going to play our guys. Our guys are going to be ready to play, and we got to be able to kind of get this done. We'll wait and see on Darnell Savage. I know there's some reports about his status, and so we'll see if he's able to play. If he's not able to play, puts a little more pressure on the young guys in the secondary to hold their own. But guess what? They held their own against a very talented wide receiver core last week. They should feel better taking on the Cleveland Browns in terms of dealing with Amari Cooper and Jerry Jeudy after facing Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. But let's talk about the bounce back week and how we bounce back. Doug Peterson all week has kind of talked about learning from the lessons in week 1. Most coaches would tell you that the most improvement that your team makes is from week 1 to week 2. A lot of that is due to young guys getting acclimated to the pro game. When you're a young player and you haven't played pro ball, or you still kind of in the early parts of your career, the speed of the game is so much different from preseason to regular season. And it takes a while for you to kind of catch up to it and to get used to kind of playing at that pace. When you think about the amount of young guys that played in the season opener, you feel good that you looked at the tape and there weren't a lot of egregious errors. There were some communication errors that kind of cost us in the back end on some big plays, on the line of scrimmage, on the offensive line, but that really wasn't done by young players. There were some of our veteran players that kind of dropped the ball and messed that up. I've heard that, those things have really been harped on, and they're really trying to make the corrections in place to kind of keep it simple. And in ball, when I was a player, we always talked about AAA, alignment, assignment, adjustment. Make sure we get lined up. Let's make sure we know what the potential adjustment, the assignment is, and let's make sure we know what the adjustment is going to be to the assignment if anything changes, whether it's the formation, movement, or those things. Really important when you're trying to bounce back for the Jags This week, you got to be on your P's and Q's and making sure that you understand AAA. Let's make sure we know how to align. Let's make sure we know what our assignments are. And if there are any adjustments to the scheme or the play call, let's make sure we're on top of it. We get it done, we get it communicated, and we get it executed. That has to be big. And talking to people around the team about some of the things that went wrong last week in critical situations, it was a missed block here. It was a wrong way, going the wrong way there. It was failure to block on the proper shoulder, take the right angle. Just the little things that kept this team from getting into the win column. And so what you do is you harp on those things throughout the week. You hope that they get better in practice. And then you hope in week 2, we don't see as many mistakes as we saw in week 1, and we're able to get out of the game, get out of the bank with our first win. When I think about the bounce back from a player standpoint, I think it's really important that you don't allow the loss from week 1 to really shake your confidence when it comes to who you are as a player, but who this team can be. It's week 1, and we have to remember it's a marathon, not a sprint. We want to be the team playing their best football down the stretch, as opposed to racing out the gate fast and then being unable to finish. Remember last year, we know what that was like. 8-3 start, faltered down the stretch. We want to make sure that the team is just rising and getting better over the course of the season. So we're playing our best ball as we head into the postseason. To do that, I think it's really important that the theme of the week is finish. Finish drives, finish quarters, finish the game. If we do those things where we finish drives, meaning we put 7 on the board instead of settling for 3, that's going to be positive. If we finish quarters, it means that when we have an opportunity to get off the field at the end of the quarter, end of the half, we do that. If we have an opportunity to score and put one up at the end of the quarter, end of the half, we put one up on the board. So we go into halftime feeling great about where we are. And the final part of it is finishing the game. When it's time to finish the game in the fourth quarter, because most NFL games are decided in the fourth quarter, because most games are decided by 8 points or fewer. You have to make the plays in those moments in the final 15 minutes to close it out. And so we need to see the Jaguars close it out. Those critical moments where the ball is thrown to one of your marquee players, they got to make the play. When you need to get off the field, one of your marquee players has to make the sack or knock the ball away or do those things. This week, it's about the finish. Finish drives, finish quarters, finish games. If you're going to be a team that is a contender, a championship caliber team, it is all about the finish. The way the Jaguars get to the next level, they have to learn how to finish and finish in all aspects. They do that. They certainly can get that done against the Browns. The next thing that I will say that has to happen against the Browns, when we talk about it's all about us, has nothing to do with them. Man, the Stars got to play like stars. You know, last week was interesting because last week the supporting cast really stepped up and played really well. Tank Bigsby played phenomenal, was terrific running the football. 12 carries, had over 70 yards, did a really good job setting the tone with his downhill runs. You want to continue to see him play like that. We saw some of the young guys, Jerrion Jones, Buster Brown, those guys step in and play pretty well right out the gate. This week, though, you got to have your stars play because last week the Stars didn't play particularly well. Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram were MIA last year in Miami. We need those guys to step up. They are considered the number 1 receivers in the passing game. They need to play like the number 1 options in the passing game. Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram must have an impact on this game because the ball is supposed to go inside out, meaning slot receiver tied in. Then you work the perimeter to BTJ and Gabe Davis. We need 13 and 17 to show up and show out this week. But it extends beyond the wide receivers. I think we can talk about Travis Etienne and his fumble, but even beyond the fumble last week, we need him to be the frontline running back. I love Tank Bigsby and what he was able to do. We talked about how remarkable his performance was considering where he came from last year. But Travis Etienne is the bell cow. He is the one that is supposed to be producing the big plays, not only as a runner, but as a receiver. And he needs to do that. As RB1, it's expected that he is going to provide some of the flash, some of the splash plays that this offense needs to be the 30-point per game offense that we think it can be with the personnel that's available. He needs to play well on the perimeter. He needs to be a big part of that because if 17 and 13 play really well in the passing game, it's going to create opportunities for number 1 to get busy as a runner and also a check down receiver. We need to see that happen. As we think about the rest of the stars, I'm going to say this. Look, Cam Robinson and Anton Harrison have to play well on the edges. They got tough matchups ahead of them. Everyone has to deal with number 95. They didn't play particularly well last week against the Miami Dolphins. Jalen Phillips got busy. Calais Campbell had some sacks. And man, like guys that we, as we think about the Jaguars, guys that we should be able to control and neutralize and nullify, didn't happen. This week, man, you need to see those guys up front do it. So offensively, the two tackles, the stars, 17, 13, and 1, they all need to play well. And if that unit plays well that I mentioned, then number 16 is going to play well, because as much as we always want to put on him as a franchise quarterback and as the big money franchise quarterback, that he has to elevate the people around him, yeah, they got to meet him halfway. They got to elevate and be ready to play. They got to execute, play well, because if they play well, he's going to play well, because quarterback is a dependent position. You need the people around you to play well. Defensively, when I talk about the stars, 44 and 41. Trayvon Walker, Josh Allen, those guys need to continue to be shop wreckers off the edge against a quarterback like Deshaun Watson, who is still struggling with his confidence since he arrived in Cleveland. You want to harass him. You want to beat him. You want to get around him, make him uncomfortable, much like the Cowboys did a week ago, so that he is not able to set his feet and he is really shaky when it comes to it. The more you get around him, the more pressure he feels, the more likely he is going to turn the ball over. We want him to see the rush instead of feel the rush. And the way that you do it, 41 and 44 have to win off the edges. Foye Oluokun, number 23. Look, he is a terrific player. He's a tackle machine. He sucks up everything from numbers to numbers, sideline to sideline. He is terrific when it comes to making plays. He just needs to continue to be the player that he is. And the final star that needs to play well, when we talk about stars being stars, I'm going to say this. I'm a big Andre Cisco fan. We need Andre Cisco to make an impact, to make his presence felt between the hashes. This is a passing game that they will try and push it down the field. He needs to eliminate all that. If at the end of the day, Andre Cisco is doing the Dikembe Mutombo finger wag, then we are getting what we want. No deep balls, no explosive plays, keep everything in front, rally and tackle. We do that, man, we walk out of this one with a great win, and a win against an opponent that many expect to be in the postseason conversation as one of the more talented teams in the league. So stars got to be stars. If our stars play like they are supposed to play, then everything is going to kind of trend in the Jaguars' direction on game day. The other part of the equation that must happen, young guys are going to have to hold up. And when I talk about the young guys, specifically, I'm talking about the defensive backfield because Tyson Campbell is going to be out. Tyson Campbell is going to be out. There are questions about Darnell Savage. So that right there puts the young guys on the hot seat. Buster Brown will likely start for Tyson Campbell. Buster Brown got thrown in the game at the end of the game. We've seen him play before. We've seen him be okay in big moments. This scheme is perfect for him as a long, rangy corner. Buster Brown should be able to hold his own on the perimeter. We need him to play really well. Jerry Jones, the nickelback, if he has to step in and start for Darnell Savage, you want him to play well. Very impressed with the way that he handled the situation in Miami. The guys that he matched up with, man, he was hip pocket position the entire time. Nose to nose, very snug, understood what the assignments were, and played his part. And because so many guys rotated in, look, man, the defense didn't skip a beat. You're probably pretty confident if you're Ryan Nielsen that these guys are going to play well when they have their opportunity. And so you want to continue to see those young guys play well. If they play well in the back end, man, it really bodes well for this team to be able to get after Deshaun Watson. If they're unable to hold up, then it changes the way that Ryan Nielsen has to attack Deshaun Watson. Fewer blitzes, not as much pressure, more coverage, which leads to more windows, more completions, more bad things that can happen as opposed to being able to ratchet up the pressure and really come after Deshaun Watson. So the young guys are the ones we talk about. I think it's Hispanic Heritage Night on Saturday. So in the locker room where I've been sometimes, we were talking about the guys who have the big assignment, they would wear the big sombrero. So this week, the big sombrero will be on the young guys in the secondary. Buster Brown, Jerry Jones, they got to wear the big sombrero. They got to come ready to rock, and they got to play well. They play well, man, we're going to walk out with a win. It's going to be a great day on Sunday. One other thing that must stand up and must show up when we look at this game, it has to be about the offensive line neutralizing number 95, Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett is arguably the best defender in the league. Myles Garrett is a freak athlete who can do whatever he wants to do at the line of scrimmage. They give him the freedom in Jim Schwartz's defense to align all over the place to create and exploit any mismatches that he faces. If you go back and look at the tape, I would expect him to spend a lot of time working over top of Anton Harrison because of his struggles last week. Because of that, I think you have to not only direct pass protection there, you got to be able to chip number 95. You got to be able to make sure that he does not have a free run to the quarterback, because when he has one-on-one opportunities, man, he wins a ton of them. And not only does he win, he produces the splash plays that you do not want to see when you're on offense. So stopping number 95 is the number one priority in the game plan. You got to know where he is at all times. You got to direct the pass protection to him, and you got to make sure that he is not able to have those one-on-one opportunities against an inferior opponent at the line of scrimmage. Also, when he moves around, inside, outside, all eyes on him. If we were kids, we would say, this is a game of where's Waldo? Don't let Waldo get loose. Waldo will be Myles Garrett. Let's make sure he is contained. When we think about other guys that you want to be aware of within their front line, keep an eye on number 6, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. He is a Pro Bowl player. He came from University of Notre Dame. He is a guy who was a mix player when he was coming out, half safety, half linebacker. But what I can tell you, people are talking about his African garb and the outfits that he wears ahead of time. But man, he is royalty on the field. Terrific instincts, awareness, great pedigree, great toughness, speed to burn. He makes a lot of things happen. And yes, he is undersized. He's not your prototypical linebacker, but man, he is fast. He's fearless. And man, he just brings a level of physicality that you must gear up for. So when we think about keeping our eyes on number 95, you also want to pay close attention to number 6. That's JOK, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. You got to be able to hold up against those guys. The offensive line needs to pay special attention to those guys because they are the ones that generate the bulk of the splash plays for the Browns. Final thing that I think we must talk about, and that's really, really important in this game, the guys on the perimeter got to win their one-on-ones. The Cleveland Browns are a team that they love playing man-to-man coverage. They believe that they have one of the best secondaries in football, if not the best. They think their corners can match up with anybody, and they give them every opportunity to do so. Denzel Ward, Martin Emerson, you have Greg Newsome, you have Grant Delpit in the middle. They're going to lock up. They can play man-to-man, nose-to-nose, and they're going to test your ability to win one-on-one on the outside. And if you are unable to deal with their, I would say, tenacious tactics, it's going to be a long day for you. So to me, this is Doug Peterson, Press Taylor having a plan to create opportunities for Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, BTJ, and Gabe Davis to get free releases, more motions, more stacks, more bunches, more things that force them to really worry about rubs and picks, to give a little separation and a little space for your underneath guys to roam free. If you do that, you can have plenty of opportunities to have big plays. But this is one where you're going to have to win your one-on-ones. Football comes down to a game of one-on-ones, but right now, today, I'm telling you, Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, Brian Thomas Jr., Gabe Davis, how well they fare in their one-on-one coverage will dictate how well this offense moves up and down the field. You can run the ball and do some things to get them out of it, but I'm going to tell you, man coverage is the best coverage in ball. It takes away a lot of the things that people want to do offensively, RPOs, a null and void, layups, those bubble screens and slants, donezo. Big plays, challenge. This is a huge challenge for the Jaguars wide receivers. They got to step up and win their one-on-one matchups. If they win on the outside, the game can be easier for Trevor Lawrence because he's going to have to make tight window throws all day. But if your guys are able to win, they're going to be big plays available. This Browns defense plays really well at home. Sometimes they struggle on the road. This is one where you got to see the Jaguars wide receivers take advantage of the opportunity and win the opportunity. Final points when we talk about the Cleveland Browns. There's going to be a lot made about the Browns. And whenever you talk about the Browns, you got to talk about their quarterback, Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson was a killer in Houston. When he was at H-Town, putting it down, 3 Pro Bowl appearances in 4 seasons, played at a lights out, almost MVP level the last time he played in Houston, 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He looked like he was the next coming, the next player to be a top 5 quarterback. Since he has dealt with all of his entanglements and issues on and off the field, first in Houston, then going to Cleveland, he has not been the same player. He is not the same confident, composed, swaggerific player that was dominating in Houston. That said, I think Doug Peterson was very careful when he was talking about Deshaun Watson to make sure that he didn't poke the bear. He talked about that talent. Once you display that talent early in your career, it's still there, even if you're going through some rough patches. Really important early in the game that the Jaguars win a handful of downs so he begins to question and doubt. If Deshaun Watson gets out to a fast start, if he sees 6, 7 completions in a row, if he begins to feel that confident feeling, you worry about those guys turning back the clock and being the player that they once was as opposed to the player that they are now. We want Cinderella. We want the clock to continue to strike midnight on Cinderella. We do not want him to be the player that he once was. So for us, the Jacks need to get after him. They need to disrupt the timing and rhythm of the quarterback. They need to make him uncomfortable in the pocket. It's an offensive line in front of him that is struggling. That is why Hines Allen and Trayvon Walker must win consistently at the point of attack, with Eric Armstead also contributing to make sure number 4 isn't comfortable in the pocket. The other thing when it comes to dealing with Deshaun Watson, the deep ball can be inconsistent and sporadic. Really important that, 1, don't give him any lottery tickets or layup opportunities, meaning blown coverage where you have guys streaking wide open down the field. Make every throw that he has to make be a contested throw. Make him challenge himself to fit the ball into tight windows. When you have a quarterback that is not confident coming in, you don't want to give him anything that allows him to get into a groove. It is very similar to a basketball player who is in a shooting slump, getting a handful of layups early, and all of a sudden the basket is bigger and he begins to find his stroke, find his rhythm, and he becomes the player that you fear. We don't want Deshaun Watson to rediscover the player that was in Houston. And the way that you do that is tighten the windows up, come after him, knock him down, make him feel like the walls are collapsing on him. If you do that, he's going to continue to play like he's played since he's arrived in Cleveland. And more than likely, you're going to walk out with a win on Sunday. So that is a brief little preview on the Jaguars and the Browns. I talked about their quarterback. I talked about their defense and the playmakers that they have. I will mention the wide receivers, Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy, really good, not quite to the caliber that we saw last week. More possession receivers, more guys that are going to do their damage between 10 and 19 yards, not the downfield threats that we saw a week ago, but they're playmakers and they can make plays. And Deshaun Watson may hang on them to make plays. Got to win those battles on the outside. But overall, this is one where if the Jaguars play their game, if they just do the things that they're expected to do, if they don't beat themselves with turnovers, penalties, middle miscues, kicking game errors, they're going to win this game. They'll even it up. They go to 1-1 and really set up a pretty intriguing matchup in week 3. We'll talk about that on the flip side the next time we get together on the podcast. We'll talk about the review, how the Jaguars matched up with the Cleveland Browns. Hopefully it's a winning effort. Make sure you rate, review, subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you check out all the great stuff that we're doing on the Bleav Network on YouTube. Make sure you tell a friend to check out all the stuff we're doing. If you're not a Jags fan, that's cool. We got something to suit your taste. Make sure you check out all of my colleagues and the great work they're doing. Check us out on Fubo. Check us out on YouTube. Continue to expand the community as we continue to try and grow this podcast out. Until next time, I am Bucky Brooks. This is Bleav in Jaguars. I'm out.